Hey, y'all, I'm Shane Sams, the host of the Membership Masters podcast. I'm a self-employed, location-independent online entrepreneur, and I have built multiple million-dollar memberships with my wife, Jocelyn. I've helped thousands of other people start, build, and grow membership sites, and I'm going to help you grow your membership today. Today's show is going to be a great one. I'm welcoming my good friend Brian Dixon onto the podcast from HopeWriters.com. Brian and his partners have built an incredible membership site where they help female writers get their blogs and books out there to the world. Over the last couple of years, they have built a 4,000 membership site paying around $50 a month. Can you imagine that? We're going to cover the value of partnerships, actually having a business partner. We're going to talk about business relationships and what happens when you burn a bridge. What happens when you let somebody down? How do you make that right? And we're also going to talk about how you can use lifetime membership to grow your business, to increase your bottom line, and go out and make big money fast. I absolutely loved this conversation. I know you're going to learn a lot from it. But before we get started, I've got one question for you. Are you ready to become a membership master today? All right, let's go. Brian Dixon, what are you doing,
Shane,
buddy?
man, I'm so excited to be here to nerd out, to just deliver so many practical tips and actionable strategies for people who want to scale their membership site.
Yeah, man, that's what this is all about. I got my dog floating around the background. So if you hear a grinding, I gave him a bone. So hopefully that'll keep him quiet until Jocelyn gets here.
I love it.
He might start barking. Yeah. This is my favorite podcast to record each week because we record so much stuff. But I'm like, I just get to sit down and I get to talk to my friends and I get to hang out with people and I get to say, hey, what's
smart.
What's happening? I was thinking about this this morning. I was just making my coffee a second ago, and I was like, "Dude, you're the last person I think I did breakfast with or anything, but before the pandemic. Like we literally were in San Diego. It was like March 2nd, and we had a good hour and a half breakfast, just nerded out over membership funnels and freaking talked about stuff. And the world caught fire when we got off the plane.
Crazy.
Back home. Like, isn't that wild that we were literally sitting in the same place like a couple months ago? Like nothing was going on. It was in the news, but we didn't think anything of it,
It's got me really reflective. I've heard you talk about your faith a little bit on this, and I'm a Christ follower, and I think no matter what your faith is, for you to build the foundation of your life on something you really believe in, mm-hmm. and knowing that things could change at any moment, and that's what makes the difference when it comes to business. Just to land the plane there, what makes the difference is resilience. And we know that the strategies that worked a few years ago aren't going to work the same. Sometimes they work better. Sometimes they don't work as well. But to have that persistence mindset, resilient mindset. So if anything, the pandemic, although it's been challenging for many, many people. For us, it's only grown our business, and that feels so weird to say, but I think we need to spread the word. I met with my pastor yesterday morning. We had breakfast. We had a great conversation. He's a friend, and right at the end, Shane, I lean across the table and I'm like, "Can I tell you something?" He's like, "Sure." And I said, "Be bold. Like, stop talking about how everything's so bad." Because literally our church for the first 10 minutes, the worship leader and the pastor's like, "I know you've had a hard week, but I'm glad you're here." And I'm like, "Man, tell us about good news. What are we looking forward to?" Right? What are you looking forward to? That's the key to not giving up. Because you and I, we've had a roller coaster of entrepreneurship, but the key is that positive attitude that continues through even things like a pandemic.
Yeah. I was listening to David Goggins, is that his name? David Goggins the other day.
You'll kick your butt.
Yeah, I know, right? Sorry, Goggins, if you're listening to this at some point. But and he was saying embrace things that suck. And it's funny, I think the entrepreneur world that we live in, we're kind of used to embracing things that suck. I just told my son yesterday, man, I was teaching him how to. He got a bait. My son's really into fishing. He's fishing YouTube channel. We got a lake behind our house, so he fishes every freaking day. And he's out there. He's got his own boat and he can get out there on the trolling motor and kill it. And he had never re-spooled a bait caster right? Which is there's three kinds of main reels. There's one that's closed, there's one that's open, and then there's one you put your thumb on kind of to control the drag. So this is the most complicated one to deal with. And I was
one with that metal thing that opens and closes.
Yeah, like claps and clips and you know
that one's so complicated.
So I was sitting there and I was like, he goes, will you help me do this? And I was like, no. I was like, no, I won't. I was in my back of my mind, I was saying, I will come in and save you when you need me. But right now, you're going to sit over there, and I know you're going to fail. I know you have zero chance of getting this right your first time, but I'm going to teach you things suck. And if you want the greatness of that bait caster, that reel you coveted and wanted so bad for Christmas last year, and you want new string, and you want it to fly off the cast, guess what, bro? You're gonna have to embrace the suck. And then we came in, we tied it together at the end. But I let him. He just kept going, But then he got to walk out to the edge of the dock.
Yeah.
He cast that son of a gun halfway across the lake, man. And I was like, see that feeling right there, that 10 seconds of casting that and reeling it in, you had to earn, man. And I think entrepreneurs are really we're kind of used to that, you know? So
totally.
It's funny
I got one for you.
Go ahead.
Okay. My 10-year-old, he launched his own membership site. We've talked about this, called Bible Builds, BibleBuilds.com. And it's a weekly Lego building challenge based on a Bible story. And it was his idea. I set him up with Kajabi. So yeah, he didn't start a home plate. He started on third base. Like, let's just be real, right? He has an entrepreneur dad and the tools to launch a membership site.
Unfair advantages,
unfair advantage. Totally acknowledge that. But he's making $240 in his first week. $240 recurring
at 10
years old. And so there was a kid. So he creates this video explaining the story of Noah's Ark, and then the kids are supposed to build something around Noah's Ark and submit it by Friday. And we're recording this on a Thursday. So yesterday he got his first build in. A kid sent a picture of their build. Right, that's how it works. You send in the pictures, then there's a voting thing, and then there's a weekly winner, and they get a gift certificate. So he got his first build. And he's like, what do I do now? Because we create a custom email address for him. And it's on his iPad. I'm like, you are 100% in charge. My team wanted to help him with customer service. I'm like, nope, it's him. It's only him. So he got his first build in. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? He said, I should write him back. I said, you know what you should do? You should send him a video back telling him what you like about it. So then we walk through the whole process of how to create a video, how to email it out. He sends it out. He's smiling. And I look at him and I go, now he has 16 members, right? So that was the first member. So I said, guess what? It's like, what? You know, that feeling, right? Like, dad's going to make me do something hard. Embrace the suck. I'm like, sounds like you have 15 more videos to send. He's like, oh. And he goes in the other room. I don't see him for 2 hours. I go take a bunch of coaching calls. I check in on him. He's sweaty. I'm like, what's the matter, buddy? He's like, I just sent 15 emails, 15 videos. I'm like, you're doing it. And I'm like, how does it feel? It's like, it's amazing. It feels great. Yeah. That's what it's about, man.
When I remember when the pandemic broke, because I think there was a moment, and these moments happen a lot in entrepreneurship, where you're like, oh gosh, like, here comes the ride, and like you don't know how it's going to be. Like, I'm not ever putting out there like, I know I'm going to succeed. You know what I mean? Like, we'll make it through anything. Which I'm starting to think that after this, because we made it through this one, we're going pretty good. Things are going pretty good right now. Right. You know what I mean? And I'm like, but I remember when the governor came on and they started locking down things, and our governor was really forthcoming, really straightforward, and he actually asked everyone to let their kids leave the room, and then when he came back, he said, "Look, I know that some of the words that are about to come out of my mouth are going to make some of you unemployed." And of course, I mean, I'm 42. How old are you? Brian? I'm 42. How old are you? You're 42 too?
Dude, same age, brother.
Yeah, man. So like, I mean, in my whole life, we've watched politics, and we've seen wars, and we've seen economic downturns. I've never heard a politician look into the camera and say something that forthright, right? And I listened to him, and and I think we've got a pretty good grasp of how the economy works and things like that. And I looked over at Jocelyn and I said, things are going to get really bad. Like, something's going to happen bad here. And then a few minutes later, I was texting my pastor. And he said, I was texting him, and I was like, hey, this is going to be bad. The church is going to shut down. We were just time texting back and forth. And he said, are you guys going to be okay? And I sent him back a text. I said, I'm not going quietly into the night. I promise you that.
Yeah.
And I said, and yes, that is an Independence Day quote. It's one of the best quotes ever if you haven't seen that movie. But it's just that mentality, like you're going back to what you were saying, like, yeah, man, things are going to suck sometimes. And like, but you just have to decide to control what you can control, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I think the online world really did that. I mean, a lot of people stepped up with a lot of leadership in the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And man, my entire mastermind group has grown every single month.
Love it.
Of this thing.
Yep.
And a lot of it, I think, does have to do with the fact that, a lot of those guys have strong systems, great teams. They embrace leadership, even though we are not worthy of being leaders in any stretch of the imagination, right? And also, too, recurring revenue, payment plans, things like that. Like, you've got this foundation where you're like, well, I'm not going to zero tomorrow. And I've got 6 months of retention built in. If that's 20% off, I can still keep the business rolling.
Yep.
And even my education company grew, Brian. It was unbelievable. Like, teachers were sent home and they bought more lesson plans from me. And I was like, what is going on? And it's like, but that's what it takes, really. That's one reason I'm so passionate about memberships. People think it's like, oh, well, you just like that better than courses and this, that. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, your floor is so high. It makes it hard for the world to cause failure in your life, right? Do you all feel that way? Well, first of all, like let's go. I don't really know a lot about your membership, is what's funny, because we talk more as dads more than when we talk to each other. So like So tell me about this membership. And for context for everybody listening, we're going to break the fourth wall here because I know this conversation is rambling at this point, but that's how all these work and people love it. So literally, Brian and I met in 2000 something, 14, 15, I don't even know what year it was.
Yeah, 14.
Was it 14? We flew to a mastermind that Pat Flynn hosted.
Yeah, Pat and Chris Tucker.
Yeah, and that was Pat and Chris. And that was kind of like the beginning of our journey when we were just figuring stuff out, right? So now we've both hit this membership stride, right? So tell me how you tell me about your membership first, and let me
we have time, right? We have time.
I got all the time in the world.
We got all the time.
All the time in the world.
So listen, for you out there who you're about to give up, you've tried something and it hasn't gone well. You're struggling. You're looking at that bill, and it might be your monthly ClickFunnels bill or your monthly Kajabi bill, and you're a couple days away from that hitting, and you're like, I do not have that money in the account. I know exactly what that's like. I left a 6-figure job. I was the founder of a charter school network. I have a doctorate in education. I was a classroom teacher for 7 years, a school administrator for 7 years. I founded my own charter school. I was getting paid $120,000 a year.
It was in Louisiana, right? Was that in Louisiana?
In Louisiana, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in charge. I was in charge of, I was in charge of a team of 40, 45 teachers, administrators, et cetera, almost 600 students, parents, community leader and everything like that. And once I got that to the 4th year as an entrepreneur, I started getting a little bored, and I wanted to do my own thing. So I basically jumped ship. I did it ethically, but I left a secure position so I could go figure out how to be an author, speaker, and marketer. That was my dream. And
not even knowing what you were going to sell, right? Like, not even really.
I had no idea, but I did have an opportunity. I was attending, to really go deep, I was attending a conference put on by Dan Miller, who's since become a close friend and mentor of mine. But I went to a Dan Miller career coaching kind of conference. There were 48 people in the room. And on the plane ride from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Nashville, Tennessee, I was listening to Michael Hyatt's podcast, which he had just started a couple weeks before, maybe months before he just left. This is quite a long time ago now. This is in 2013. He had just left Thomas Nelson. He was starting his own thing. And he made a comment on his podcast. I listened to that episode on the plane on his podcast. He said, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet, and I'm listening to his podcast, and he says, we're looking for somebody who is kind of like an educator, but also loves marketing, somebody who can build courses. And I build courses for universities, and obviously building a school, as a teacher, you're doing courses all the time. So Shane, I'm on the plane headed to Nashville. I'm like, I know Michael, I don't know him at all, but I know he lives in Nashville. So I'm like, while I'm here for 3 days, maybe I can figure out where does he hang out and try to bump into him or something, So there I am the next
So did
morning.
you go camp out at Merida's in Franklin?
Right? So
with a cup of
and then I was
coffee?
going to go there.
I know exactly what's going down.
I was going to go there.
Right.
That was my plan. I was like, maybe I'll skip half the conference. I'll just sit in a coffee shop and hopefully bump into Michael Hyatt. And so I show up to the conference the next morning. I'm sitting in the front row because I'm a learner. I want to implement. I want to figure this out. And Dan's life and business was emulable. You know, it's something I wanted to do. New York Times bestselling author, multi 6-figure, sometimes 7-figure brand online. You know, he's got a great podcast. I mean, he's just a legend in the podcasting space. Dan Miller, 48 Days to Work You Love. So I'm sitting there in the front row. Shane, not 10 minutes in to the conference, 10 minutes in, he goes, oh, somebody just drove up. Dan stops his talk. He's like, he's real folksy, you know? He's like, oh, somebody just drove up. Oh, there he is. And then a few seconds later, in walks Michael freaking Hyatt right there. He's like, oh, you know, our guest speaker's here. Michael, everybody please welcome Michael Hyatt. And he walked right in. I'm like, come on, God, really? You're going to do that? Like right there? Like I had my plan and then he just shows up. And so I hit it off with him.
You saved me $3.25 on a cup of coffee, God. Thank you.
I know, right?
I didn't have to go buy that coffee and watch it get cold. That's
so
awesome.
long story short, I hit it off with Brian, his tour manager at the time, because Mike was kind of going to be a speaker instead of building a big business, which, you know, he's since pivoted. But I hit it off with Brian. And I got back on the plane with the beginnings of sort of what became a 6-month contract to help them get their courses off the ground. And I got back home to Louisiana and I was like, I think I need to leave my job, but I had no plan. But I knew if I could somehow help Michael, that's going to lead a bunch of stuff. What a mentor, like what a connection. So I just jumped, you know, in with him, like, but it was like a part-time contractor thing. It wasn't like I was, you know, his chief
financially secure with insurance.
No plan.
Yeah.
And jumped ship, tried to hustle for a year. And I had a couple things that done okay. And then they kind of fizzled out and I was trying to, who knows? I tried a bunch of things. And literally I had the conversation with my dear wife of now 18 years, but at the time, over 10 years. And this is seven years ago, 6 years ago. And she said, this is it. She's like, you got to figure this out this last month or you got to go back to being, a teacher, school administrator, what have you. But
get the resume ready, honey.
Oh, the whole deal.
Do you know how many times me and Jocelyn we quit our jobs in 2013 and like we immediately regretted it? like 3 months later when our sales dried up. And do you know how many times we looked at each other and go, "But dust off that resume." We might have to move again, right? Because you don't know sometimes what's going to happen, right?
So it's overstated, but it's true. Burn the boats.
Yep.
Got to burn them. There's no way to go back. There's just no way. I'm completely unemployable. There's no way I could go work for a school again. It's just not possible. No
chance. I especially now with all the virtual stuff and craziness and like.
That's right.
When we paid off this house in 2017, I think.
Nice.
And then we upgraded to the place we have now, which is like 40 acres and all that nonsense. And like, but it's funny. Like, I actually, when we started really making it, like, I think 2015 was where we turned the corner. We're like, it's not that we don't want to go back. We don't have to go back. You know what I'm saying? And like, then we sold elementarylibrarian.com.
Yeah.
But even with that, when we sold the business, I was like, how can I, and this is a deep philosophy we have in our core values is, we always seek to raise the floor, not the ceiling of our business. The ceiling will raise on its own. Opportunities will come because like you did, you put yourself in the right place to be in the right place at the right time, which is what we did when we went to One Day BB, right? Like the reason I didn't have the money to fly to San Diego that year.
I got to tell you the rest of that story. Cause
dude, I mean, we were seriously like, is this going to work again? Because we're going to run out of money. and we spent, but we didn't just do it. Like you talk about burning the boats. Like we said, if we're going, we might as well do it big. And we got a nice hotel and we flew as good as we can. And we ate good food and we treated it like an anniversary. We treated it like kind of like your last meal. Like, you know what? If this doesn't work again, we're good. We had a good time going out. Right.
Okay.
And we flew out there. But the reason we did, I was like, listen, I've been talking to Pat on email. I somehow got to emailing back and forth with him before he got big. Yeah. And he had just started interviewing people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss. And but we had kind of, I was keeping him updated on our journey and how much he inspired us the whole time. And I was like, Jocelyn, if we go out and meet him, Like, I don't want to just be his pen pal. I think we need to be friends. And I think we could help him just as much as he could help us, because I bet you we're probably one of his best success stories right now. And people need those testimonials and they need those stories. So we went out to meet him and that's how we got on the podcast, right? But it wasn't because we asked. It wasn't because he asked. It was because we did what you did. You're like, okay, burn the boats. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going to a conference for the off chance accidentally that I might run into this person.
That's it.
Right?
That's exactly it.
And that's what happened, right? So how close to that one day BB was this ultimatum? And thank God for wives too, by the way. Let's just say that out loud before we get in trouble. It's like Russell Brunson says, you can only be as successful as your spouse will allow you to be. So our spouses probably let us get away with a lot of murder in our businesses. So how close to that was that when you were like freaking out, you know? Or that kind of at the beginning though, wasn't it?
The whole story is my sort of like, hey, you might need to go get a job. That conversation happened right before I signed up for Marie Forleo's Beat School, $2,000, which was like in, I don't know, February or March of 2014. And so it was $2,000, but I bought it from Amy Porterfield, and her deal was she does like a 1-day business boot camp. So I'm like, I have to go to San Diego anyway. And that's what I said to Julie. I'm like, if I only have a month left, I have to go to San Diego anyway. Let this be my last hurrah. But I was on the fence about going. And then I got an email from Pat, on his newsletter list. And he was like, I only have like 2 spots left for this 1-day business boot camp. I looked at the calendar, and sure enough, Amy's thing was on a Monday. Pat's was on a Friday. So I went to Julie. We had 2 little kids at the time, like babies, and no money. And I said, listen, I'm putting all my chips in. I'm going to go to, and we used to live in San Diego. So I had friends I could stay with. So I said, I'd like to go to San Diego. There's a conversation. I'd like to go to San Diego.
No, but the conversation was like, please God.
Right. Monday, I'm going to go all in on Amy Porterfield, and I'm going to listen to everything she says, and I'm going to implement all week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then it was either Friday on Saturday that we had the 1-day business boot camp. And I said,
I remember.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a chance I'm going to figure out my plan on the week, and then I'm going to present my plan, because that was part of the business boot camp with Pat and Chris, is you got to stand up and talk for like 15 minutes.
So you made that up when you got to Porterfield's thing, and you literally walked in like, just did this yesterday. What do y'all think? Basically.
I remember, and Amy's become kind of a friend. Like we've connected a few times since then. I put up a PowerPoint with a picture with all of my team members. And they were all stock images. And Amy's like, how did you find such a diverse team? I said, oh no, they're stock images. And she's like, bursts out laughing, because I just had to have a clear vision. Now, she helped me clarify it a little bit. And then, but the thing is, I had all these conversations with people at the Amy Porterfield thing, the what she called Beat School bonus thing. It was all day. I had all these conversations with people about how I could help them as their marketing person, and not one person hired me. And what I realized then is it was about Brian and Brian's story. And it was a faith thing. God totally broke me, while I was out there. So I spent the whole week just kind of wandering, just like up and down the beach, like, God, I don't want to go back to school. Like, what am I going to do? And then I remember I got a message I had been added to the Facebook group for Pat and Chris. Remember, I had this little Facebook group of like, hey, you're all going to be at this boot camp. And instead of introducing myself, like, here's what I can sell you, I decided to be a learner. And so I checked out your profile and Jocelyn's profile, and, our other friends I could name, but there are other friends that were there. And I just learned about where they're stuck. And I went, wait a second. A lot of them are stuck when it comes to marketing funnels. A lot of them are stuck when it comes to launches. They've got a good message, but they have trouble with the marketing. What if I just help them? And so that was my pitch at Pat's thing, is I stood up in front of the room and I just said, if you're overwhelmed by technology, if you're overwhelmed by all these marketing strategies, and you just need an implementer, just somebody to make this happen for you, I'm here to help. And literally somebody stroked me a check in that room before I went home. So we went from broke to having at least a month when I came home. Right. And that's what got me started on being the marketing guy for female business owners. That
And
was the
then
first time
that's
I had
what,
some
and now
clarity.
that's what leads you to your membership site eventually. And I want to go back to this
Yes.
because
Yes.
because your book has some really interesting stories. What comes after that first check,
Oh yeah.
and I'm gonna warn y'all. Some of it is straight nuclear catastrophe disaster. Okay, so we're gonna talk about
I've
that in a
made
minute.
all the mistakes.
Yeah. And it was fascinating reading that, dude, because we run in the same circles. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And we
Oh,
talk to each
you
other.
knew the people on that I kept
Oh
anonymous
yeah, oh
in the
yeah.
book.
When I was reading the book, I was like, I remember that, and I saw all that happen in real time, right?
I know,
And so
dude.
we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Yeah,
But
it's true. But
uh,
listen, your failure, you could either climb in a hole and keep shooting all over yourself, just I should have done this and I should have done this, or you can just deal with it and go, listen, I'm the biggest sinner of all. I got to make this thing right,
sure,
and it
and you
just
did,
took me
and
a
you
while
did.
to figure it out.
Hey, listen, we're all trying to figure it out. I've made some disaster mistakes, trust me. So like so I'm gonna fast forward then rewind, okay? And I do want to stress before we go forward though. I do want to say, for high level mastermind people that are listening to this, like maybe you've got, or maybe you're growing. A lot of membership people like listen to this podcast, and they're probably sitting 100 to
Yep.
500 members. No, man, I want to get $1 million membership. I want to do a
Make
membership
it
masters
happen.
thing.
Come on.
It totally can. It's only 1,000 people paying $85 a month. That's it. So
Yeah.
so what happens though is I want to so no one misses this. I really think the reason Brian and me are both here right now is because we've constantly had one philosophy of, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm going to do everything in my power to put myself in the right place, to be in the right place at the right time. And you know what's funny? Every time I have said someone's going to be somewhere, I'm going to go there too.
Yep.
It has manifested. Like I always run into that, like you did with Michael. That has never not happened for me. Even if it's like just my normal friends, like, well, I think so-and-so is going to be in the same town. Maybe I can run into them there. And like, it just happens but if you sit at home, and I know that COVID makes us all sit home a little bit right now, but there's still Zoom hangouts. There's still buy your way in or work your way in. You can work your way in by going to a live event. You can buy your way in by taking masterminds, joining courses, and doing all that right now. So you can find a way. But fast forward, so you start working with female entrepreneurs, you start doing this, and then you decide to start this Hope Riders thing, which it becomes this massive membership site.
That's right.
Right. So help and tell me more about it. I know it's helping female, like it's like influencers, authors, speakers, like people like that, right?
Yeah. The origin story there is just, three steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And I eventually discovered this niche of, I call her Cheryl. I help female faith-inspired bloggers launch their first product online. And I did that for several years, for 2 or 3 years. That's what I was doing. And generally their first product was a course or some sort of a coaching program. So I did the strategy. Often I'd build the Kajabi site and the sales pages and the website, the whole deal. So I was doing that for clients, mostly in that female faith-inspired kind of home / decorating / parenting kind of niche there. And it's a pretty connected community. So I help one person, and that leads to a referral, leads to a referral, leads to a referral. So as I'd done that, one of my most successful clients has a, best-selling book and a course that we built together. And she had just started this little membership site with her sister and her dad. So it was just this little family, kind of like, we want to stay connected. We're all authors and we want to put together something. So they called it Hopeology, which was basically like their worldview. It's like, we just look to hope. So Mike Willin, the nester, my client, she was all about home. Emily P. Freeman was all about your soul and kind of time management, really, but it was like your life balance. She's very big on rest and reflection. She's amazing. And then Gary was about a family. So it was kind of faith, or family and faith and home. And they started, and there are people right now that would buy something from you if you just emailed, because they just love you. And those are the people that were part of their membership. But over time, their membership started dwindling. So they might have had, I don't know, at the peak, maybe 60 members, 40 to 60 members at $10 a month. So it was a side project, and they were about to give up. They were like, this isn't really worth it for us. And we've kind of scratched that itch. We built a bunch of stuff, and it was like 3 months old or something. And they're like, we're kind of going to shut it down because we're not but I had helped Michael in. So she's like, why don't we just have a meeting and see what happens? So I was in the room, right? It's all about being in the room. I was in the room and I said, the first thing I do is I would ask the people who haven't quit, why haven't they quit? What are they hoping to get? Because often your audience is hoping to get something from you that you're not even offering to them. But they want to know something. They want to learn something from you. And that's why I want to be in the room, right? And they want to be in your room. It's the same concept. So we did a survey and we came up with 5 ideas. It was just a really simple survey. Why did you join Hopeology? What are you hoping to get? And of these 5 options, which one do you like the most? It was like, I'll learn more about my home. I'll learn how to be a writer. I'll learn how to improve my faith. I'll learn how to be a bit better parent. And I'll learn how to better manage my time. 80% number 1 was I want to be a writer. And I was like, there it is. They all want to be you. Your audience wants to be you. And I'm like, you're all published authors. Gary, Emily, and Michael were all published authors, all full-time living off of being a writer, speaker, blogger. Like they want to be writers. So what about instead of Hopeology, just in the middle of a Zoom meeting, I still have the recording. I was like, what, instead of Hopeology, just call it Hope Writers. Just teach them how to be writers.
Yeah.
And it was just that light bulb moment. So that's where it started. We kind of just continued the conversation, no pressure. It took 8 months just for us to get our ducks in a row.
So did you come in as a partner then?
Over the 8 months, I just, because I had a lot of other projects, and again, it wasn't making money. So I was like, well, this isn't going to feed my family, but I'll coach them because they're becoming friends. And as we continued, we started getting more excited about this thing, and we wanted to buy hopewriters.com, and it was taken. Some guy was using it. It was like a publishing company in Texas. We're like, so it took me 5 months to negotiate him for the domain. And I remember it was July 4th, 2015. So for just over 5 years ago. And he had started at like 50K. And for those of us who
I know.
Have a domain, right.
People have no clue what a domain names actually were.
He finally agreed. It was a Friday afternoon. It was like 4th of July weekend. And I said, I will PayPal you $3,300 right now if you say yes. And he had said, no, for 5 months. And finally said, okay, I'll do it if you send the money right now. Because he was going out on the lake and he wanted cash in his pocket. And that is really when Hope Writers officially started, is when we were able to buy the domain name. Because other than that, branding is so much, it wasn't going to be a real thing until we had it locked in. And then once we had that locked in, we had all contributed. They're like, you should just be a quarter, you should just be a partner. You're our brother, like you're in this. And so I was in the family and we got it off the ground. We were all speaking at this conference that is now defunct. All conferences are pretty much defunct right now, but it was a Christian blogger conference. All of us had speaking gigs, and we're like, wait a second, what if we rent an extra hotel room, do the Michael Hyatt Platform University thing, rent an extra hotel room, and we'll just interview our friends who are speakers. And so that's how Hope Writers really started, is we sent out a creepy email to our friends saying, hey, come meet us in our hotel room and we'll film your tips and advice.
That's amazing. So how many members do y'all have today? Like it's great. It's
just under 4,000.
It's incredible. Is that not amazing? You ever say that out loud? Like I always look down at how many memberships we've sold and I'm like,
yeah,
how are all these people looking to us? Like it makes me sometimes want to throw up. I'm not going to lie. Like it is a little nerve wracking. Like, not just even like for example, like our education stuff, like the plans that were written under the umbrella of our company are teaching kids history in hundreds of schools. It makes me want to throw up. Like it's like a responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that? Like when you say, man, we got 4,000 female entrepreneurs looking for us, or female writers who are looking to us to lead them into the writing world. Like I think that's a fear that some people do when they get to that 100 member mark. And they're like, do I want more members? Because it's a lot. I feel the pressure. Like, do you know Jody Moore? You ever heard Jody Moore before? The Better Than Happy podcast.
Right.
She was on here, and I asked her about this, and she's a life coach for Mormon women.
Yeah.
And she said, I had to really internalize as the membership. She was in the community, and her membership exploded. Like I'm talking, she went from 100 to 2,000 like overnight.
Wow.
And she was like, I had to stop internalizing the outcome for my people and focus on the opportunity. But like, do you ever, does that weigh on you ever? Like and the books, the ripple from 4,000 writers, bloggers, and books, that the impact they will make. Like, does that ever get to you?
Well, would you talk Enneagram? Do you know about the personality?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I'm a 3, which is an achiever. So I'm never satisfied. You know, I'm constantly being driven to what's the next achievement. So I remember we were about a year in. We started at $12 a month, and then my plan, because I was working with Dan Miller at this time, like I had other clients too. This wasn't all my whole thing, and I was only a quarter of Hope Writers. We started at 12, and I had seen other membership sites scale their you join now or it's going to go up. So we went $12 a month, $15 a month. We were $15 a month for like a year. And I remember we had this in-person meeting, and I did the math, and it was 5,555 members, 5555. If we had 5,555 members at $15, which is what we were charging, times 12 months. So I didn't even know about churn. Like I didn't know about cancellations. Right. I didn't know anything, right? We would be $999,900, basically $1 million. We would have $1 million membership site. And the girls and Gary about laughed me out of the room. You know, they were just like, we'll never have $1 million site. You know, that's ridiculous. Fast forward chain, $47 a month, $479 a year, $1,497 lifetime. Thanks to you for that advice. Almost 4,000 members. You can do the math. Like significantly more than that crazy goal from just a couple of years ago. So I look at it like it's now. Julie and I had this conversation the other day, my wife and I said, this is like James Dobson year 3 of Focus on the Family. You know, this is like,
oh yeah. Yeah. You're just getting started. Just getting started, man.
Where you realize I will not outlive Hope Writers. Hope Writers will outlive me. And you're like, whoa, like what a legacy, what a responsibility. So I'm honored to be part of it. I call myself, it's like one of those, a lot of times senior pastors will say, I'm just one of the pastors, it's kind of like, I feel that way. I'm just glad to be on the team. Our team has grown. We have almost 40 people that work on our team now. And we've implemented EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating Systems. So we have really clear communication, because that was a struggle in the beginning. We've really
who does what, basically.
All that. So I'm an open book. I'm happy to share all those things, because I believe that recurring revenue is the magic gold of the internet. If my 10-year-old can make $240 a month doing what he loves, getting kids to build Legos about the Bible, then you can create a membership about the thing that you love and get paid.
And I was arguing. Like I was talking. I was on Twitter the other day. I like to poke the bear a little bit. So
you sure do.
Nathan Barry and Sean McKay were talking on Twitter. Yeah. Nathan Barry is a ConvertKit, founder of ConvertKit, and then Sean McCabe does all kinds of blogging and other stuff. But he actually switched to the membership model a while back. And it was funny because he made the decision to do that, And so Nathan Barry posted, the clearest path for anyone to get to $100,000 a year is through high-ticket courses. And then he literally said, not subscriptions.
Yeah, come on, Nathan.
Yeah, come on, man. I mean, you literally sell a subscription as a service. What are you talking about? Yeah. Anyway, and I was like, now, wait a minute. This kind of falls into the debt snowball territory for me of like philosophy, because if you look at paper, paying off credit cards is better by interest rate, right? No matter what the balance is.
That's right.
But if you look at behavior instead of paper, putting the smallest one first always wins. And that's why Dave Ramsey is, tens of millionaire, because he figured out this message. Yes. Now, to me, what I have learned through literally helping hundreds and thousands of people in our stuff is I can take someone who's just learned about online business, right? And I can say to them, all you need is 100 people to give you $50 a month to make $60,000 a year, and show them on paper the math. Or, if you want, maybe it's about, maybe it's 150 people to pay you $50 a month. You can make $100,000 a year, and person after person, real people, humans, not grinding entrepreneur, hustling Gary V disciples, whatever, but like real folks are like, dang man, I know 100 people. Like I probably have 100 people on my Facebook page.
That's right.
That would do this. You know what I'm saying? And I put that on there, and we got back into a back and forth about it. And I was like, y'all are wrong. You're just wrong. Like, I love you guys, but you're just freaking wrong. Memberships are the fastest way, not only for financial freedom, the fastest way for that stable income for their family. Like, you got paid one month and didn't get paid the next. But when you get a monthly membership, you are getting paid next month. In fact, if you know your churn, you're probably going to be able to predict how many months out you're getting paid and understand how to plan around that. Right.
It's amazing. And you know what most people do is they have this elusive, like, my customers out there. But you know, I have a whole book called Start With Your People. If you focus on the people you actually know right now, and you think about what are the needs that they have, where are they stuck right now, and all you do is help people get unstuck. That's the perfect recipe for a membership site. There's a new tool that came out. I know how to use it. My friends all want to use it, but they don't know how to use it. What if I just interview experts to help them learn how to use this tool and then master this tool, whatever that happens to be, whether it's lesson plans, whether it's TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever the new cool thing is. You can build a recurring membership site all around just having a campfire conversation
without having to make a 60, without creating a 60 volume course, because you can literally say, hey, it's a membership. Pay me $25 a month. I'll see you every Tuesday and we'll talk about the subject. Hey, hold on one second. I'm gonna let my dog out real quick. I'll be right back. Welcome to the real world of Shane podcasting here.
So while you're all here, you're probably one and take over the microphone now. So think about what is obvious to you that's magic to other people. What is something that you know how to do that your neighbor doesn't know how to do, the person across the street doesn't know how to do? That's a really good idea for a membership site. Is it something that they'd be interested in for a long period of time, more than just one time? So right now I see homeschooling growing like crazy because it's something that people keep working on. So is there something that
bumping his head against my leg?
He's back.
Yeah.
I gave it extra little tip while you're gone.
Oh, sweet. Nice. Yeah, we'll leave that. That's how it rolls. We don't really edit this podcast. So we just start and we stop. That's how it works. You know?
I love it.
All right. Let me, I'm going to circle back around here to partnerships because, you know, I think this is an interesting thing. I have always been, you know, my only partner is Jocelyn. Right. And I actually heard Dave Ramsey say this one time. He said, the only ship that's guaranteed to sink is a partnership. And that probably scarred me in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. Yeah. But like, I am fascinated by it now. I've learned the errors of my ways, and that was probably a fear of control issues and things like that. Like, you know, there can be some great things beyond, you know, yourself, especially if you can partner with the right people. We've seen that like with Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels. We've seen that with a lot of people. Pat Flynn's got a business partner now doing some things over there, and like there's a lot of people that really make it work. So like, let's talk about growing a membership with partnerships, because that's where it really matters. So I guess let's just start with one. What do you think the drawbacks are a little bit in the beginning of having a partner? Because I know there's a lot of memberships owners out there that maybe, like, for example, we've got a couple math teachers, and I think they've talked about partnering because they teach different subjects, right? But yeah, exactly. So like, what happens when you first start the partnership that you got to figure out? You know, if you think a partnership is the way you can build $1 million membership, you can take it to the next level. What do you got to solve early? And then what are the great advantages once you get past the solution?
Going back to embrace the suck, like you got to embrace the suck because it's not easy, right? If you think about the biblical concept of being unequally yoked, and the idea is, imagine being an oxen tied to a sheep and you're both trying to pull a wagon. Like, it's not going to work out. You know, somebody's going to lose. Right. So in the same way, try to use a more modern analogy, you know, when you're partners, when you're 50-50 with somebody and you disagree, what happens? Well, that's trouble. That's trouble right there. So my number one piece of advice when you're thinking about partner, get three people. So Julie is the only 50-50, like 100-100, right? But the only one-to-one partnership in my entire life. That's it. Just Julie and I in our life and in our marriage and our everything we do. So joining Hope Writers, some of it was providential/accidental. We were 4, then we bought out Michael, now we're 3. 3 is perfect for us. There's something really powerful about a triangle. So if you can convince both people that it's a good idea, then it really is a good idea. But if somebody's kind of hesitating, but the other 2 people are feeling really strong about it, then they can kind of go along with it. So there's something really powerful about that accountability and that responsibility of working with the team. And I just 100% believe in the concept of big leap, by Gay Hendricks, the idea of the zone of genius. So your zone of genius is your highest level, zone of excellence is below that, zone of competence, and then of course, zone of incompetence. So if you're incompetent in marketing, maybe you shouldn't be that person, or if you're incompetent in creating the content. So you got to get the right business model, but also having the right business people that you can work with. So as an example, we're launching a brand new thing that's not Hope Writers. It's a completely different business, because that's what you get to do as a multi-passion entrepreneur. And as we got started, one of my really close friends in the world reached out and said, I've got this idea. I'd like you to come in 50-50. And I said, I'm in because of you, I'm in, but we need a third. We need a third leg of the stool, because if it's a two-legged stool, it's going to fall over. So we got talking. And we realized our biggest issue, it has to do with NCAA sports and sponsorships because of the new rule changes. And so we said, what's going to be our biggest challenge? Because I'm a marketing guy, he's a sales guy. What's our biggest challenge? Legal compliance. So I said, let's get our friend who's an attorney. Now the three of us, we can go hard, we can go strong, and we can balance each other out.
Yeah. So finding the third person though is finding the weakness though. It's not just, hey, Bob would be into this. It's
right.
It's like, let's look at what we bring to the table, and let's bring somebody else in. And also I would assume, like with your partners, like it's also about like sharing equity in certain ways.
Right.
I guess it depends how you structure that. I mean, there's probably reasons for someone to have 50 and two people to have 25 and stuff like that. But did you all, was that, because I could see a power imbalance develop where if someone had too little equity, they would either not care as much or they would not feel like their vote counted, right? Because
all that.
Like you could get unvoted. And for me too, like this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs, we all struggle with a little bit of ego because we're killing it and doing things, right?
Yeah.
But like also too, like being willing to be outvoted, I would think would be important. That would be a skill that you would have to, a muscle that you'd have to practice, because there's going to be times where there's three of you. Mm-hmm. You don't want to faction out where someone's already always getting voted out. But like at the same time, you're like, yeah, I don't know, but you know what? I trust you guys. Let's do it and see what happens.
That's right. Yeah. The key for us, what really, really has taken us to the next level, because we were sitting around. I try not to really share numbers with Hope Writers just because, the sensitivity to our community. But we were in the 6-figure mark annually for the first couple years, we were just struggling to get it by, and we started growing it. I started implementing best practices. We can nerd out on all what worked and all that. But what got us from 6 to 7 and headed towards 8 is the vision traction organizer from the Entrepreneur Operating System, which is taught by Gino Wickman inside of the book Traction. He has this spreadsheet that it's plug and play. You fill it in. It's what are your 5 core values? What are your big rocks? What are your measurables? What's your scorecard? Like he just has this whole templatized system. It's like your rubric for your business or your game plan, going back to, your roots in football. It's your playbook. And when you have your playbook, then you talk to your partners on a weekly basis in a level 10 meeting. So we would have a level 10 meeting every single week, and we just look at the playbook. And as long as we've agreed on the playbook, how you implement it is up for debate, but we know what we're trying to accomplish. And that for us improved all the communication because we're on the same page.
It's kind of like in a football staff. I spent the last 5 years of my career as a defensive coordinator. I was the head coach for so many years. Then it's like, there was many times up in the box where I'm like, what, when the offensive coordinator would call a play. And I was like, Jesus, what are we doing here, boys? And that's a natural feeling. Right. But, like we agreed, we were a run the ball first. 90% of our plays are going to be runs, football team, even when it didn't make sense. And so like that did give you solace. That's like, all right, that's who we are. Let's play defense, And so having that agreed upon culture is not the right word, like your style, right? And knowing where you're going, like, and how you're going to get there, it makes it easy to decide like what you're going to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, but Fortnite, I play Fortnite with my son like all the time. And they just released cars, right? So they've got like there's like a Ferrari, and it goes really fast, but it can't take a lot of damage. And there's like a taxi that's like kind of like the middle ground workhorse. There's a pickup truck, there's a semi, and we drove them around. All we did last night, me and my brother and my brother and my son, we just tried all the cars, and we were just driving around and getting killed and crashing them off mountains and whatever we could do to them. And then we all decided, like, okay, well, the pickup truck for us, it's the best one. It may not be the right decision all the time, but that's the best one. So we're all in the pickup truck. If we see a semi, we just keep on driving by. And that's the same thing, like with a partnership. Just figure out what everybody does. Realize nobody's going to know exactly what to do. Have some systems to make a call when everyone's disagreeing. See what happens. And be ready for the failure just in case. And don't blame each other when it fails, basically.
That's right. I think that there's actually a business principle in having three total partners instead of two. And just in looking back on my failures, it was often because I partnered with somebody who had a really strong personality. That's why they had a pretty big following online. They, lightning rod, right? I think Stu McLaren, love me or hate me, there's no money in the middle. Or somebody else maybe said it before him. And in the same way, I would partner with these pretty strong female, entrepreneurs that have very bold visions for what they want. I would come alongside them, do all the marketing strategy and the technology to make it happen. Who's in charge? That got complicated because what I know works, they might not be willing to do. And so then that there's room for dissension, there's room for disagreement. We never had a third party to help us move forward. And now seeing one of the number one reasons Hope Writers has worked is because there are three of us. Now I've done a lot of relationship work and God's been good and there's been a lot of healing. And I mean, I'm just less of a jerk than I was, really. That's just what it comes down to. More in touch with, who I am and how I come across to people. But there's something really powerful about three. So if you are considering a business partnership, what if you were to bring in one more person? Because here's the thing. Let's just paint the picture. Imagine having an idea and being so passionate about it that it just keeps you up at night. You're just so excited to get started. And your business partner says no. And there's nothing you can say or do for them to get them to say yes. You want to punch walls. Like it's one of the most frustrating things. But having a third person where you can have a civil conversation, say, here's why, and having that person help to facilitate and mediate that conversation, and whether they disagree with you or not, can be really healthy. And I just didn't have that in my business structure before Hope Writers.
To take someone like me, like, okay, so like I could see a point like vision wise. Like I drew a thing the other day. We just went through the vivid vision process, the book. To create that 36-month vision.
Cam's awesome. Yeah, Cameron Harold. He's
man. That freaking little bitty 140 book can change everything.
Yeah, he's written some really brilliant stuff. Double is great.
Oh yeah, man, it's all good.
Got a book on PR that was mind blowing.
I actually put him in my vivid vision. I'm like, I'm gonna hire that dude at some point when I got more time, and that's gonna be part of my. That's gonna be my reward for doing what he told me to do in that book.
I love it. Yeah, he's legit.
But I watched a guy go through that, and it revolutionized his business, doubled revenue in 1 year, and just I was like, oh, I'm doing it now. But as I was writing it, I got to even thinking bigger. Like it wasn't just the vision for Flipped Lifestyle. I was like, well, what we do at Flipped Lifestyle, help real people start membership sites, and that frees their family. Now they can go live their life, right? And I thought, but wait a minute, the Flipped Lifestyle brand could be bigger than that. And I drew like my chicken scratch umbrella. I literally drew like a Mary Poppins umbrella, and I started creating things underneath that. Like I put, we flip your life. That I think entrepreneurship is the best way to flip your life, right? And so that's what flip your life means. But then I put, but we could also flip people's finances. Flip your finances would be a cool podcast. And then flip your family, like people having stronger marriages and being better parents. That could be a great thing. What about flip your legacy and like leave an inheritance to your children's children? Like that could be a thing where you talk about investing and all these other things. And I thought, man, look at this network of things raining down from this umbrella. But then I realized, like, I can't host all those podcasts. Heck, I don't even know if I want to host this podcast I might hire a host for this thing eventually. Right. And but then I got to thinking, like, man, someday it would be a cool thing to have maybe partners, to be able to partner with me in these, making this a true lifestyle brand, not a niche focused thing. So are you saying someone like that, even like me, like you should probably make that leap to 3 immediately, like find 2 people and like You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it's hard to build trust enough to be a partner with somebody,
Right.
but then to find two people you trust, right? Like, do you
That's
think higher level membership owners could even look at that and say, hey, what are your two biggest weaknesses? Find people that fit the mold and go for it, you know?
That's right. Most of your problems in business are people problems. So find good people. Find good people that can help you move forward. What we're doing with our new company is we just started with two friends, and then we brought on a third friend. And now as we're looking at growing and scaling it, it's who else? Who else do we want to do life with that we can connect to?
So I might even say, well, what would make me like one? I know that creating a podcast network would be a good thing. Like that would be a weakness of mine. I've never done that. I don't even know where to start with that. So, what if I knew somebody that was really good at that and I liked them and they had the same values? And then what if the next thing would be, I don't know what it would be, right? Maybe it would be scaling systems because we have good systems. We can run our stuff. But like if you were going to all of a sudden over the next 3 years, create 10 new podcasts and create a podcast network and create 10 new memberships, like that's a different animal than firing up a new Kajabi website. So that's that would be like build those relationships, bring two people.
Build those relationships.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we just did this with our company. We looked at where's our gap. You know, Mike McAllister has a great book called Fix This Next. Yeah, Fix This Next. So I just think about that. Yeah, I don't know if you know like the SWOT analysis. We used to do this in education all the time, right? Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I love the weaknesses and the threats part. I just think that way. Where is our biggest weakness? I'm a futurist when it comes to my strength finder, so I can kind of see something coming down the road a little bit. I'm like, this is a weakness that is turning into a threat. We've got to shut that down. We've got to figure that out. We got to lock that door. You know, we got to cut that off, whatever it is. And that's how I think about it. So what is the threat to your business, or what's the weakness in your business? And who is it that you know that's awesome? And find awesome people and reach out to them. And this literally happened yesterday with the sports thing that we're working on. We didn't have somebody to work with the athletes, and we realized that's a weakness. So I thought, who's my favorite athlete that I'm a friend with? Reached out to her, had a phone call. I said, you got to be on board. You just got to be on board. Like, let's do life together. Let's have you. I told her, this was my pitch to her. I said, when we meet weekly on Zoom and we have all the faces on Zoom, your face isn't there. We miss your face. Right. And she thought it was funny, and she like feels honored to be in the room, right? And like, who do you want to do life with? At Hope Writers, our team, not necessarily right now during COVID, but we get together on an annual basis, and we have a big kind of powwow, get together at one of our houses, and we just do life together. And last year that we did it, we all went to an escape room, and we just had this cool memory of like trying to get out of an escape room together. And it's like, I looked around, and I'm like, I'm friends with these people. I could be, like I am. Like, find people you want to do life with, and then figure out a way to level up their skills. Because the right person can learn the skill or learn.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. I just learned this about hiring last year.
Right.
I hired my biggest mistakes that me and Jocelyn have made, we will admit openly, we are the worst hiring ever. But like this last round, I spent 6 months writing job scorecards.
Yeah.
We knew exactly who we wanted. And the 3 people that we hired full-time W-2 with us right now, gosh, thank God, because we got it right,
I love it.
It just took so much time, but we got the right people. One person, I interviewed her for another job, and I looked over at Jocelyn when we got off, and I'm like, man, she's a terrible fit for this job, but dang, we could use her because she's freaking awesome. She has no business doing this job. She just interviewed her for it. And Angela, if you're listening, sorry. Right. But I was like, we got to hire her. I was like, and I told her, I got on a Zoom call with her, and I was like, look, I don't even know what you're going to do tomorrow.
Yes.
But I do know I want you to start tomorrow. And she's been awesome. We found some good niche roles for her. She's kind of like this. She's kind of like the support for everybody else a little bit. And like, it's really been very beneficial, like to hire the right person, not the right job or whatever.
That's right. What I say to people who are just starting out and they hear us talk about team and growing your team and building your team, and they're like, but I'm not even making money. Know this, you already have a team. Even if you're not paying anybody else, your spouse is on your team, your kids are on your team, your pastor's on your team, your friends are on your team. You already have this network of people who are depending on you to succeed. You have to succeed for them. So why not include them in your dreams? Your spouse is not the enemy of your dreams. Your friends are not the enemy of your dreams. They want to be part of it. And we know that people support what they help create. So include them in the process. And we've done this in really little ways. We have an annual conference or biannual, every other year conference that we do for Hope Writers. And we've included friends. Come help us pack boxes. Come help us do the mailing. Come help us staff the coffee shop. And now they ask frequently, hey, how's Hope Writers going? Because they feel part of it because we've included them. So if you have that limiting belief that you can't go hire anybody right now, realize there are already people that want to help. And right now, a lot of people have time on their hands. Ask them to help out. You just might not, you might find your new partner by seeing that they're already in your friend group right now.
Talk to me a little bit more. I got, and then we'll change subjects here. This partnership thing fascinates me.
I love it.
This podcast is weird because people laugh. Like I literally told Brian when we got on, I'm like, this is a cold start. I'm going to count down. I'm going to say, hey, Brian, and I have no clue I have no script. So there's nothing happening over here except me writing notes. So like when y'all are listening to this, if it sounds a little chaotic, that's because the host is crazy. But talk to me a little bit about money and partnerships. I think that's the fallout of where most problems will start.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys have it structured where you get salaries, but there's also profit share and things like that. But like, how do you decide those things with a partner?
Right.
Is it really based on, who owns the company and who does this and who does that? Like how did you all make a decision on did you just go into it equally? We wanted to be equal partners. Like, how did that work? How did you, you bought out a partner? Like, how did that come about? Talk to me a little bit how you made those money decisions.
Well, what they say, good fences make good neighbors. We don't have a dog. We're thinking about maybe one day getting a dog. We don't have a dog right now. I'm really glad one of our neighbors has a fence that has a dog. The other neighbor both of my neighbors have dogs. One has a fence, one doesn't. So guess who we have less issues with?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now listen, they're both friends, right? Great. We won the lottery when it comes to neighbors. I'm not bad talking to our neighbors, but good fences resolve things before they become an issue. And good contracts and good legal terms and good agreements. And so the beginning with the end in mind, know that one day you will not be part of your membership site. You will maybe die and now your kids have to deal with your mess, or you're burnt out and tired and you want to sell it or you want to quit. Eventually you're not going to be around to be part of it. So what if you began with that? So for Hope Writers, we had a really simple agreement. It was a 1-page partnership agreement, which basically is we're all owners. So we share everything. We share decision-making. We share responsibility. We share everything. And if one of us wants to leave or all three decide that the person needs to leave, we put that in there. And I actually think they wanted to put that in there because I was the one guy not in the family. If it's a unanimous from the other three people that they need to leave, then the payout is, and it's a little complicated, but it makes sense. You take the whole year, divide it up by 12. So it's what's the average monthly revenue of the previous 12 months because we have launches, right? So what's the average monthly revenue of the last 12 months times 3. That's it. You pay them 3 months and of their cut, not even of the whole thing, just of their cut. So you basically give them kind of like a 90-day advance on earnings. And that worked for us in buying out, a sister, one of the founders. And now technically that's still in full effect and force, but we've just started talking about some pretty high level things. So for those that were like, this is still basic, let's get a little meaty here. Two things that we're facing right now at the level of our membership site. Number one is to decide when to take distributions and when to leave the cash in the company. And so my goal is to, like you said, raise the floor. My goal is to extend the runway so that we have a money market account, interest-bearing money market account that is growing continually. So we've invested between 4 to 20%, 20% on good launch months. And then when it's a low month, we still put 4% aside so that we have a run rate of years and years and years, like just years and years. Because I know that there's going to be an acquisition one day and I want to have the cash for it. Like I want to be able to throw cash at a competitive membership site or at a publisher or at something cool, be like, we'll buy it for this. Here's the cash.
Like a software you could absorb into your product or something.
My brain's always going.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. Yeah, I'm always.
So that's number one. And then number two, we actually have been, by the time this launches, we'll probably have the ink dry on an agreement of life insurance on each other. So
Key man insurance. Yeah.
What is it called?
Key man insurance. It's like Yeah, because if a partner goes down, like if I tell our team, our goal is to have such strong systems. If
Yeah.
one of us, any of us get hit by a bus,
Yeah.
the company goes back to work Monday after crying over the weekend and we have to roll. But
That's right.
at the same time, when you're positioned as a leader, you got to, that is disruptive. It has
That is
to be.
disruptive. So we built systems so that I can go away. I've taken probably 5 weeks kind of off this summer, just kind of like I'm available, but really I'm not doing a lot. I'm doing kind of strategy thinking, but in terms of execution, I'm pretty much out of the execution role at this point for the most part,
Like
unless
mini
it's a new
sabbatical kind of
initiative.
deal. Yeah.
You know, unless it's a new initiative. But if I got hit by a bus today, technically, according to laws, my wife is now a third owner of the company. What is that mess? You know, so
like how do you? She can't jump in and fill the role.
Mess,
and
right.
you know, her brilliance and her genius is focused somewhere else,
other places. So what happens is the life insurance actually pays her out on an agreed upon market rate. Like there's a way to work that all out. So we're still working all that, what that looks like. But essentially she's set for whatever I would have earned from the site. So she's good. Her finances don't change just on the business. I'm not even talking about life insurance. We're just talking about the business. But then they basically buy her out when I die immediately so that now they
can move forward
50-50.
and put somebody, at least get someone for the role.
That's right.
And to do that.
They can figure that out, but it's just the ownership stake that could be really complicated. So I know that was a little niche for those that, but that kind of stuff is important to think about that, because when you don't, right, teach us to number our days so we might gain a heart of wisdom. I got to number my days. I know when my grandfather passed away, how old he was. I know how my other grandfather, and I look at, and I know how many days that is. And I look at that, I'm like, okay, I need to plan for the future, not be surprised by the future.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And like, I like the concept there too of, because this is somewhere I think I could go eventually, right?
Yeah.
And I like the concept of even building in like, hey guys, like we're growing. Like this business is not going to look the same in 2021 as it does in 2020.
Right.
We probably need checkpoints to reevaluate all contracts over certain times. They don't have to expire because you want those strong agreements in. And you don't want them to sneak up on anybody. But it's like, hey, we need to have like a week-long meeting every week where we bring in our attorneys and we say, let's make sure that this contract is still meeting all of our needs, the needs of the business, and most importantly, the needs of those 4,000 women writers, right, that are trying to write books. Because if there's infighting at the top, it's gonna destroy the community below it. Like there's no way that it's like cutting off the head of the snake. Like the community can't survive without leadership. It don't have to be you. Right? Like I am not in my community all the time, but you have to provide the leadership and have those checkpoints. We all have a will. Why not have kind of the same kind of thing governs like a partnership? So that's
right. So what we've done with the partners, is we have the 3 areas of business because there's 3 of us. So we've kind of defined what those are. We have community, content, and growth. So I'm in charge of growth, sales, and marketing. That's all I do. I just think about growing this thing every single day. So growing a sales team, growing our ad spend, growing our funnels, growing our acquisition strategy, how can we make more money and serve more people? And Gary can just love on people. He's in charge of the Facebook group. He's in charge of customer support, customer service, all those kind of things. And then Emily can be free to do what she does best. She's a best-selling author. She just thinks about content all day long. She's in charge of content. So she does all the inside content and the outside content. So she plans out our webinars, but she also does the weekly training, interview-based weekly training. And us 3 sitting in our zone of genius, building up a team that supports it and eventually working ourselves out of a job helps to have that stability like a 3-legged stool instead of a pogo stick.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of people over the last 2 years because I realized how bad I sucked at leadership on a team level, not necessarily the community, but like on a team level. And that was really what I've been trying to build under me right now is that, each phase has a leader. Like we have a director of content, we have a director of retention. And but I see now the power of, man, what if you stuck 3 entrepreneurs on those leadership posts and they still had those people under them, those directors, vice presidents, whatever you want to call them. But like, man, that could be, and then when you all were like moving toward a common goal, right? Like that's pretty legit. Like you got me a little excited about this. Don't tell Jocelyn because she might get mad. All right. So let's, I've got 2 things I want to talk about real quick. I want to talk about funnels, of course, because we had this amazing funnel conversation, but I'm going to circle back to start with your people. Okay. All right.
I love it.
So let's do it. Now, I tell you one thing that, and these podcasts are great because I love you guys, and we're getting raw. Okay, so we've known each other for a long time. I've also known a lot of other people that we've known, right?
Yeah.
And it's weird because you always hear bits and pieces of things, right? Of what happened between people and this, that, and the other.
That's right. This is the real purpose of the conversation. This is an
Exactly.
intervention.
It's an intervention, right? So, but here's what was interesting. So, when you were getting ready to release the book, I shot you a message. I was like, bro, send me the book. Let me support you. I'll share it.
Thank you.
Instagram it and all that. And I got it. And, I'm a skipper in books. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm kind of the guy who sits, like I bought a book by Warren Buffett the other day. I don't know. It was a Warren Buffett book. It was about one thing. I don't think one of my weaknesses as a business owner is reading income statements and stuff. Like it just makes me want to my soul crush when I read that.
We make them do a video for us.
Yeah, right. We've got that too. But I'm like, you know what? This is probably something I should learn more about.
Yeah.
So I bought this book that's how to learn balance sheets and income statements, and it's designed for evaluating stocks, so you can invest in good companies. But I thought, wow, but what if I applied that to our business?
Love it.
It would probably make our business better because then I could evaluate the problems with our business, right? So I bought this book. But when I see an idea, I just bounce out and I go take action on it. Like, and I may never go back to the book, right? But I did. I got your book, and like, I sat down, I read it, the whole thing, and the very beginning was fascinating. It really blew my mind. One, because I know all you people, and like two, but like you basically spent the whole front of your book talking about, like you said earlier, you're like, man, I realized I had been a jerk to a lot of people and maybe even screwed some people over, and you spent time going back and like reaching out to these people and apologizing to them for not being a good partner, for not knowing and messing up, and even something you said earlier, like hey, I got my first check and we were going to run out of money the next month, but that was 1 month. And like, I think that like there's a desperation there, and like, I can see how you may have even gotten backed into a corner. Like, Jesus, like if I give this money back or someone wants a refund, and now I can't do it. Now I got to go back to school, and now you're just caught in this more ethical quagmire of your family versus your friends versus the partner versus the people. And what kind of, because I think this would be a valuable lesson, because if you are a membership owner for long enough, you're going to learn that even your community, you're going to mess up. You're going to screw somebody in the community, and they're going to cancel, and then there's a dilemma of, do you give them money back, or they forgot to do something or whatever. But like, what led to this moment, man? Because like, dude, bridges get burned hard, and building back bridges sucks, right? But it sounds like something happened, and you just made this commitment. Like, I got to go back and tell these people that I was a jerk, Like, what happened there?
As a person of faith, I would blame God, and say like it was the leading of the Holy Spirit. The Bible talks about how His kindness leads us to repentance, and so the idea there is God doesn't slap us with a big stick. He slowly nurtures us like a father into showing us where we could improve a little bit. Like, that's kind of the process. So all that being said, for me, the tipping point was I was working with a client as a courses. We'd done a course, then we did another version of the course. Then we were talking about doing a membership site together. Okay. So I'll come full circle. We're talking about doing a membership site together. And she just kind of pieced out, just never really got back to me about it. And I thought, wait, I thought things were good. Like, I know that I had some hurt feelings in the past with other people, but I thought with her, I'm good. And then there were a couple
you were on the right path finally.
I was on the right path. And then there were a couple other people around that same time that it wasn't as bad as it was when I first started. Because yes, I was naive. There's a lot that I didn't know. There's a lot that I didn't understand. And I was pretty hard edge on people sticking to the exact contract the way it was worded, and all of this. So I was a little bit more bullish, and I just didn't see the long term when I got started in the industry. It's just like it's like a rookie teacher, and they just don't understand. They get so mad at one student, but then you realize, wait a second, you're going to see that student for the next couple of years. You're going to see those parents. You just learn to kind of chill out a little bit, because it's experience.
And you don't know what you don't know.
Don't know.
Like, cause you can, like, I know there's instances I've, in the past, like we had a weird scenario one time, a couple of years ago where, someone had paid an annual plan for something, and it was a time-based thing that they bought. Like, it really actually my time was allocated for them. It wasn't even like they didn't get delivered. It was like, hey, I'm here. You can access me if you need me, but it was basically a use it or lose it program. Right. And they paid for this. They renewed. There was a conversation right around renewal. So I thought everything was good. Same thing. Right.
Yeah.
But they came back almost a year later and said, hey, I paid for this last year and I didn't want it. I didn't know it was going to renew. And there was a gray enough area where I was like, well, maybe that conversation they thought they were still in, but it was already after the renewal. And it was really hard. I was like, I don't need that money, but it's kind of, you get locked into these freaking principles where you're like, you should have paid attention.
That's right.
But then you realize, here's what you realize though, your principles might be wrong. And you don't know that you don't know, like you said on those contracts.
Yep.
Like, I was kind of a jerk when I negotiated that contract to win instead of to partner with somebody, right?
That's it right there, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is that how you felt on some of those things? Like, I mean,
yeah. It was sort of, the setup was get as much as I can for my family. That's my righteous cause, is I'm trying to feed my family here. And you must be the enemy if you disagree with me, as opposed to how can we work together to figure out a solution that works for everybody, even in a disagreement. So some of that was a lack of maturity. Some of it was lack of business experience, and et cetera. But I knew that I had a big blind spot. And if you realize you have a blind spot, often you can't see it yet. You have to have somebody show it to you, because it's been a blind spot for a while.
And you just feel it. You feel something wrong.
You're like,
finally,
wait a second, this isn't working. And maybe like in dating, after a certain point, they're not calling you back. You're like, is there something? Am I the only one? Is there something that I don't know? This happened with my band. I was in a band all through high school and college, and we never got to that level of success. 20 years later, I can look back and be like, oh, well, here's why. Like, we were breaking some of the basic rules of songwriting. And there was some really, like, I wish we had a mentor who could just be like, you guys know that if you just turn the screw a little bit, right? Turn the key a little bit more, but do it in this way. And it's hard for us to see that for ourselves. So I realized I had a blind spot and I couldn't see it for myself. And I was working with Dan Miller, and I was co-interviewing Mike McGreevy, who is a business coach. And Mike mentioned right at the end, I just, as kind of a joke, as we concluded the conversation, I said, Mike, this has been great. But if people are still listening, they're not full, they want one more idea to take their life and business to the next level. What's that idea? And he just drops a bomb. He goes, well, they need to do a 360 assessment. I was like, well, that sounds awesome, man. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Wait. And I was like, it just moved on because it was the end of the call. And I like a day or two later, I started Googling 360 assessment. I was like, what does that mean? And then I reached out to him and I'm like, can you send me a link or whatever? And basically, for those that don't know, imagine you're standing naked in the middle of a room, and everybody that you've worked with, that's known you, that doesn't like you, that likes you, that's for you, that's not for you, they're all standing in a circle and they're pointing at you. And they're telling you where you messed up. Maybe you're not naked, because that's even worse. But they're kind of giving their feedback and insight. That's the most negative part of it. The positive part is, imagine you're circled by all your friends, and they're saying why they love you, why they just think the world of you, why you're amazing. So there's kind of a big spectrum there. But that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like to put yourself out in a 360 assessment. Essentially, there's three questions. What's Brian good at? What's Shane good at? Where does Brian suck? Right? What's Brian terrible at? Where are his big blind spots, or where is he messing up? And then the third question, if you could tell Shane anything anonymously, if you could tell Brian anything anonymously, because it doesn't ask for email or login or password or name or anything. If you could tell Brian anything anonymously, what would you say? What do you feel like he needs to hear that nobody's been able to tell him? So I sent this out and working with Mike. I sent this out to like 20 friends. They're going to say nice things. Got my clothes on, Brian's a good, like nice things. And then this is where I just blame God for this. Like a name came to mind. I'm like, oh crap. Probably a name that we know. Somebody that I didn't treat well in business. I'm like, oh no, I got to send them out of the blue. Hey, I know this is out of the blue, but I'm really trying to improve. And can you just give me your anonymous feedback? And I didn't know because they're supposed to click a link, but they're not supposed to write back. They're just supposed to do it or not. So I sent it to like 50 something people or I sent it to more, but I got about 50 responses. And Mike and I just walked through this and, you skip through, there's like 3 pages of good. Ryan's good at this and good at this and good at this. I skip over all that and I get to like page 4 and it just hit me like right between the eyes. I read, it was the comments of what I'm not good at. And it said, Brian often puts projects over people. And there were several comments that were about how I'm focused on results and not on relationship, how when you have Brian's attention, you feel like you're in the sun, but then when you don't, you feel like you're out in the cold, in the shadow. Like these are the
disappear or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it was even like something you said, it was interesting there. Hold on. My brain went coffee, like the caffeine's starting to kick in. So it's basically, did you feel like that projects over people, which you say that in your book, which is a really fascinating thing, like, but it's not even projects over people. It's like, the personal result over the people, right? Like, did you,
what can
like
I
that,
get?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like that was the vibe I got. Like when you talked about this part in the book, like it was like, you felt like, man, I'm putting me over everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like through the project, but then there's an easy excuse there, right? You know what I mean?
It's easy to go down that road and it's easy to go down the road of reading through it and trying to figure out who said what or justify, stand in sort of your righteous indignation of like, this is like, I was doing the best I could. Don't they understand? And just realize that just radical apologizing. Like there's a cultural shift right now to, I'm just Rachel Hollis, girls stop apologizing. I'm like, we need to start apologizing. The only way to make relationships right is to apologize without excuse. I'm sorry, but there's no buts in an apology. So I reached out step by step. I have this holy hour, quiet time in the morning, read the Bible and pray and journal. And I said, Lord, who have I wronged? And he gave me a list of the first 3 people. And I said, who else? And he gave me the next 3. Who else? Gave me the next 3.
And then you're like, dang, God.
I was like, stop talking.
Why you got to write everything down? Bible first. Now my list of never ending apologies.
They're like 20. I think it's like 26. I talk about it in the book and it's been a while since I remember all the numbers, but it's like 26 people. And they were not people I wanted to talk to. They were people that I really felt like screwed me out of a deposit or screwed me out of the last percentage or took my intellectual property or took my big idea and they went and sold a book deal on it. Like that stuff really happened.
And maybe, and also too, like for sure, like, but within that, I would, from what it sounded like, even when you evaluated those people, because you bring all this stuff up in the book, but like even when you evaluated those people, you were kind of like, well, maybe that was just, maybe we were both throwing haymakers at that point, and it just got vengeful. Like it's like a bad relationship can go wrong and people can walk.
That's right. That's
but
right.
Eventually people start swinging back and we start swinging at or maybe it's like, how a fight starts. You push them, they push you, you swing and miss, they swing and miss. Then you kick them in the shin and then you punch them in the gut and then they punch you in the face. And now you get away. If somebody drags you apart, you're away from each other, but you're still at home thinking, I'm going to get this
scorched earth, burn it all down.
Man. Yeah, man. And
so I reached out and literally said it was usually a text message or an email, but I'd reach out and I said, majority of them were over email. And I literally I had to go to like an old email address that I hadn't used for a while, say, hey, I know this is out of the blue, an apology, subject line, an apology. Hey, I know this is out of the blue, but God's been doing some big things in my life. And I just want to say to you, sorry. I take 100% responsibility for the way things ended or the way things went, depending on the situation, the way things went or the way things ended. Will you forgive me?
And I'd say some of them probably didn't. You know what I mean? I mean, that's part of it. I mean, I guess you don't have to. Did you feel that way? Like most people were good, but some people were like.
I heard back from everybody except 2 people. Yeah. And then some of them, I hopped on a call and just healing they needed to tell me something, and I had to, right? That was the whole thing. You have to listen, you have to hear it. And now I really think I'm exactly the same person, but I see it coming down the track right in my face. Now I see when I said something dumb, or I'm about to say something dumb, or I'm about to paint myself in a corner. I'm like, wait a second. I've been down this road before. I'm going to tell you a bunch of shiny, happy, smiley, really exciting things, but I might not be able to deliver because I'm pretty overloaded right now. So let's slow down a little bit and let's just try a small project instead of a big one. That was really helpful. That kind of real actionable strategy there is just like, let's start small and get bigger later instead of trying to promise you the moon right now.
Yeah. And also too, like, this is something I've learned from myself, because I can be, I'm a football coach, and even in my house, like the coach comes out, right?
Yeah.
I'm very aggressive. Do it now. Like I can feel myself. I'm learning more when I'm about myself, but that doesn't change my, like I'm still the same punk sometimes. I'm still the same aggressive football coach. Let's take the hill.
Yes.
I don't know if that changes, like I don't know if the bad parts of us actually go away. Like that's what I think people look for sometimes. Like, but
Right.
I think the same person, like for example, like the same person that made that bad decision then that may have screwed somebody, or that went down the road of fighting and vengeance, it's probably still in you, right?
Yeah.
But it's just the better awareness and systems to at least recognize when you screw up immediately instead of 2 years later, right?
That's right.
Or at best, dang man, do I have any kind of framework here to stop this from happening again? Like having those mentors. Like I know whenever I want to do something, I've got my friends that I talk to all the time about business and stuff, and I can really say something to them. Like, am I right here? Should I feel this pissed off? But you don't have that in the beginning. And I think that's where the mistakes get made, because our true selves have no guardrails, right? Without like people around us and like mastermind groups and like, even the people we screw, like to say, hey man, you messed up, and you're going to sit here and listen to it.
Yeah. What's happening now, I think in my life is I'm learning to not be so reactive. So I get, like, somebody sent me kind of a snarky, like I'll tell the story. We launched my son's Bible Builds membership site at $15. And I posted it a couple places like, hey, check out this cool thing. And then I got this 4-screenshot message from a lady I don't know, but I guess follows me online or whatever. And she and her sister had this back and forth Facebook Messenger conversation about his thing. At first it was like, hey, did you see this? Oh, it looks really cool. Can you believe it's $15 a month? No, I can't. Who do they think they are? Well, they probably don't realize that other people are struggling with the coronavirus right now. And so how dare they? And it went on for 4 pages of text message or Facebook Messenger messages. And she thought it would be helpful. So she screenshotted it all and in private messaged it to me. And I read through it, and man, I wanted to reach through the screen and just be like, what? Why would you even put that in my head? So I calmed down, and then I sent a voice message, and I just said, we strategically chose that price because when people pay, they pay attention. And we know that this isn't for everybody, but we think this is a reasonable price given various factors. But really, I want to just ask, like, why did you send that? Is it a limiting belief? Were you like, what about you made you want to send that to me? And then as soon as I sent it, it was like a God moment where it was like, Brian, that's just as jerk of a move as telling her off.
Yeah.
And I couldn't,
it's just passive aggressive
all the time. I do. It's totally passive aggressive. I do Voxer all the time so I can recall messages, but you can't recall a Facebook message. I was like, oh crap. Oh man, what? And I wrote her back, and I was just like, you know what? Just ignore the message above. I'm so sorry. That was me being snarky. Thanks for thanks for the feedback. That was it. So I'm still dealing with it. I still get pissed at somebody for telling me something, but I don't know. What do they call it? Sanctification. You're just continually improving. And as long as you are humble enough to see where you mess up and shorten the gap between the mess up and the cleanup. Okay. Right. Shorten the gap between the mess up and the cleanup. Now, ideally you see the mess up coming and you stop yourself. But once you mess up, if you clean it up quickly, some people will forgive you. Some people won't, but the majority of people will say, yeah, I'm human too. And it's okay.
Yeah. That's good, man. That's good. Interesting. I love this. I love this. Great conversation. We're just learning. We're just all learning, and it is what it is, man. I know there's a lot of people don't like me. Like I've burnt some bridges, especially my football career.
Yeah.
Like I burnt some legit bridges, like, cause I just didn't know any better, man, and I love that. I've never heard that concept before of like, it's not about even fixing it. It's just shortening the gap, like, of fixing it. Right.
That's what it is.
Just process, man. So, all right. Well, cool. Let's turn back to funnels. Cause that's
Come on. Can we get back to politics?
No, we're good, man. All right. Oh, so about Trump. No, I'm just kidding. Never will that happen on my podcast. Okay. So let's talk about our conversation real quick. We'll kind of close up with a little funnel hacking here.
Oh, let's do it, man. I love that stuff.
So our conversation in San Diego was very interesting. I reached out to you. I think I saw you post on Facebook that you were going. Did you go to Social Media Marketing World?
Yeah, I was like a room host. So I was like on the
There
team.
you go. So you went to Social Media Marketing World. I was going to Stephen Azul's book writing Authors Who Lead. And I thought, oh, well, Brian's going to be there. And I said, hey, man, do you have any time? I don't know how much time I'm even going to have. But I bet I could do something before I took my plane on Thursday or whatever.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, dude, I got a breakfast, but let's have breakfast before breakfast. I'm like, sweet. And so we met for coffee at some random place. And that was a little restaurant. We had a really good breakfast, though. By the way.
It was good.
Really good.
Yeah.
But the main reason I was like, I was getting ready to launch my $1 million membership funnel, which is this brand new thing that we've launched this year that has really taken off, because same thing with asking your people like what they need.
That's right.
We had a lot of people who were getting to that 500 to 1,000 mark, right? But they were just humping it there. They weren't like, it was like hustle, like it was just grinding out member by member, and they didn't have their automation set up, and they didn't have their funnels set up. They didn't understand follow-up or how to kill churn or how to do any of those things.
That's right.
And I remember I was like, hey, dude, I'm teaching this workshop next week. I want to teach you the first lesson at breakfast. So we literally had iPads and stuff out, and I was drawing this funnel like one step at a time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you went back and you all did some things, but I think where you really had the breakthrough was with that lifetime offer, right? So tell me more about your lifetime offer. How did you implement that? Yeah. And if you all want to know more about the $1 million membership funnel, go to membershipmasters.com. I'll tell you more about it. But like, tell me how did you guys implement any of the other stuff, the trials, or just really focused on that lifetime offer launch?
One of the maybe positives, maybe negatives of being in a partnership is it does sometimes take a while to implement a new system. And so what I try to do is try to fix what's immediately broken first, because that's a really easy sell to the team. I'm like, look at this. This is a really obvious idea. And they're like, it's a great idea. And then we implement it. And you built out this whole strategy for us that I was like, that fundamentally changes the way that we launch and the way that we upgrade our ascension funnel, essentially. So I love it. I'm still wanting to go to it.
You're like, I can't convince everyone to do all the things
right. At the same time.
Right. Right.
And following EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, you have 3 to 7 rocks, 3 to 7 big projects per quarter. So you and I met in quarter 1. Now we're in quarter 3. So we're getting there, but it's probably 7 or 8 on the list. What we were able to implement immediately, because it just made sense, is a lifetime offer. So Hope Writers is at $47 a month, $479 a year. And what you convinced me of, which is true, is go find out your lifetime customer value, your LCV. Or, for us, we started looking at, because we use Kajabi, so they have a metric for ARPU, our average revenue per user. Like, what's the average revenue per user? How can we get that up? So when you look at that number, you're like, ooh, that could be higher. Or your lifetime customer value. Look at a customer, an average customer. They're not necessarily going to be a Hope Writer for life, although some are, but they might be a member for 6 months. So what is that worth? And if you could do a deal where you say, fully commit, there's a couple ways to look at this, but I'm going to go for the lifetime thing. Fully commit, go all in, stop giving yourself excuses, become a Hope Writer for life. And for the cost of 3 years, you'll never have to pay for your membership again. That's what we landed on. Cost of 3 years, you never have to pay for your membership again. And we sent, several emails to our members about that. The take rate, like right away, we had people sign up. And we were just like, I don't know if one person will sign up. We have, well, I guess I can say we have just under 100 that have signed up for a lifetime membership. So it's more than a 6-figure, like couple emails for us.
Yeah. I remember when you sent me
sales page.
You sent me a message. You were like, all right, we're going to do this. And you did it. And you were like, oh my gosh, we did it. I was like, yes. Like, I love stuff like that.
Results.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. And like, it's such easy math that membership owners miss.
Yeah.
The highest level people, because I'll blame this on me a little bit, because I am completely fixated on monthly members. Like, that's my number one.
Yeah.
Like, I want as many of those as wide. I want to go as wide as possible, because that's the floor, man. That's where predictive like data comes in. You can figure out who you can hire and stuff like that. You don't know that someone's going to take an annual or take a whatever. But like, the lifetime thing's interesting because the lifetime value is always there. You want them to commit, so they're always in it.
Yeah.
But also too, it's easy to fix. Like, you can say, let's say it's $1,000 is the lifetime value of a customer, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say someone pays 2 months, and in month 3, you offer everybody who's ever a member a lifetime offer. That's $1,000. So you say $997, you're a member for life. Well, everyone that takes that beats lifetime value because they've already paid 2 months.
That's right.
So you're not losing anything. The most they can do is say, "Now I'll stay a monthly member." And just we call it. We also call that the make a date part of the funnel, because we actually sell those on like anyone that does, like, when it triggers, they go to a webinar.
Yeah.
So like, there's a webinar to actually sell the lifetime offer to customers is how we do that.
We haven't done that yet, but that's in the plans.
Yeah, but emailing it out's good too. Like, everybody should once a quarter just clean up that low hanging fruit with a solid lot. People will take it, and it's also really good too. It's a really good seasonal offer. This is something else we're kind of looking at. Like, we just did this.
Yeah.
I had 2 offers for our summer sale, right? The first one was a quarterly combination of our Membership Masters newsletter and the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we had that lifetime sitting right beside it, and people took it, and
it
was right there. So like, every fall, winter, summer, like, it's just a great thing. Stick a quarterly offer out there, a nice quarterly discount, but just plant that lifetime value right beside it, that lifetime offer. You'll be shocked. I mean, it's just, it's like the easiest launch ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're coming up on our 5-year anniversary. So we're kind of planning like a birthday bash because we've had people that have stuck around since Hopeology. They've been a member for technically more than 5 years, but October is our 5-year anniversary. So we've thought about what kind of cool thing can we do? And that's where the lifetime thing really started to, so 6 months ahead, I was thinking, well, if we're going to have if you've been a Hope Writer for 5 years, why not just say I'm a Hope Writer forever? And then I'm not thinking about their monthly charge and their churn rate. It's just like, who are our people that are not going to leave no matter what?
Oh, without question. It creates the core of your audience.
It creates the core. And then above that, at least for probably for all humans, but especially when it skews female, there's this self-doubt that creeps up. And then there's also this imposter syndrome, because we're working with people who want to chase their dream. They want to write a book, but they maybe haven't yet. And so they keep thinking, am I making progress? Is this worth it?
Am I really a writer? Am I really a writer? Yeah.
And now they can stand on the fact that, they're a Hope Writer. Now, they might not ever get a book published, although we've had great successes with our members, and whatever their goal is, not always to get a book published. But to commit to being a Hope Writer for life actually changes their mindset. And it's not that short-term speed dating. It's like the long-term marriage. They're really in it, and they want to make it work. So a different level of them shows up, which has been really fun to see.
Yeah, I've even thought about doing it for we've been practicing with add-ons. Practicing is not the right word. We've been experimenting with add-ons, like my $1 million membership funnel. We have videos for it, but I actually teach it live 3 times a year over like an 8-week session now. So like, we've practiced, like we've been using it. It's a $5,000 product, but like, it's we include lifetime with it. So it's a killer bonus when you want to do something higher ticket. And I'm even thinking about having a tier, like when we get to do live events again. Like, I've got the I've got right of first refusal on the Lexington Opera House right now, which is a venue in Lexington, Kentucky that holds 900 people.
Wow.
So I've got that prepared for 2021 when all this goes away, hopefully, and we can have big events again.
Yeah.
And I told Jocelyn, I was like, we should totally, if we could have 2 tickets. We could have your normal ticket where people can just come, because we want a lower tiered option this time where you can pay $100 and get to come to the conference or whatever, you know? But I was like, man, the VIP option, we should include, if you're going to commit to the VIP option, why not give them lifetime value? You're coming to the Flip Your Life family reunion, and now you're in the family forever, right? So there's so many things that I think people get scared of lifetime. One, it's the lifetime of the product. If the whole world ended and the internet shut down in 5 years, the product shut down, you don't have to keep delivering. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
But you know, it's lifetime. We're going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. And it's like, there's so many things you can do with a lifetime offer if you'll get over the fear of, well, wait, they're not going to pay me anymore. But yeah, they are. They're your best customers. You're just getting paid up front for the first product. They're going to pay you for other things. So it's not like you can't, you know, continue to make money from them. You know what I'm saying?
And as soon as we launched it and people started saying yes and signing up for lifetime, I immediately started thinking, now how can we really over deliver? What can we do? So, you know, I've got a list. I'll take a look at them every once in a while. I'll make sure I'll search for them we have a private Facebook group. So I'll search for them in the Facebook group, make sure that they had, and that's not even my role, but I just feel responsibility towards them. So I actually think they're getting even more value by,
without question.
Right. It's just the
do y'all send them anything? Do y'all send them anything like physical? That's another big deal.
We gave them a $300 course bonus, but we didn't send anything in the mail, but we are rolling out a welcome box.
Dude, yeah. Like if someone goes that lifetime thing, like shoot them a t-shirt, you know, let them put on the cape, let them, you know, we've got these Flip Lifestyle mugs I'm holding. Love it. You're watching this right now. Yeah. Like, you know, just send them little things that they're like, remind them like, I'm in. Yeah, I'm in for life. I'm not Andy Dufresne. I'm not escaping the jail cell, baby. I'm here. Yeah, it's good to go.
Yeah.
All right, brother. This is a great conversation, man. It's awesome to talk to you. I haven't seen you really since we could last see each other in person. But dude, I appreciate it, man. I learned something today about partnerships. I really enjoyed that conversation. I loved your book, and I just knowing the journey and like hearing the growth. Like I think that's a big deal, man.